Welcome to another episode of Culinary School Stories, the bi-weekly podcast that is dedicated to sharing the stories of people around the globe whose lives have been influenced, impacted, touched, and or enriched, for good or for bad, from their culinary school experience. Hi, my name is Colin Roach, and I'm your host. Thanks for joining us today. You are an important part of this show, where we ask the question, what's your culinary school story? So now, without any further delay, let's meet today's guest. Hello, everyone, and thank you once again for tuning in and listening to another episode of the Culinary School Stories podcast, a proud member of the Food Media Network. I am so excited to welcome today's guest to the show, a corporate executive chef, entrepreneur, author, speaker, TV, celebrity chef, teacher, certified executive pastry chef, and regional vice president for the American Culinary Federation. And that is only part of her culinary school story. So without further delay, it is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Kimberly Brock Brown. Chef, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Colin, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So let's start right at the beginning. I know you went to, or you studied home economics in high school. Is that where you got your first love of food, your passion for culinary arts, or did it happen before that?
It happened before that. Growing up with parents who both loved to cook, and we went out to eat. I grew up in the Chicago area and great restaurants all around. But, mom was a great cook, dad was a great cook. And so when we did go out to eat, though, we went out to some really nice places, too. So I was exposed to a lot of food early on and throughout my childhood. So by the time I got to high school and culinary arts or home ec was offered, I was, let's go cook. I want to go cook. Because we were cooking all along at the house, the household chores, your week to cook or your weekend, whatever. We're always in the kitchen cooking. So it happened by nature. Sometimes by force, so.
Great. And now, why did you pick pastry over culinary? Or did you try both? Did you just know right from the start which one was your, kind of the path you would take?
No, that's one of those school stories. I did not know. I liked both of them growing up. And by the time I got to El Centro, it was actually still, I had this fear actually of baking and pastry, only because we had when I had my first pastry class at school, it was just so over my head. It was so intimidating for me. The instructor that we had was an adjunct instructor. He was one of the pastry chefs at one of the local hotels. He was French, so he spoke very little English. So he had his assistant pastry chef come in, who was American, but wanted to speak English with a French accent to try to teach us pastries. I had no idea what a pâtisserie was. I didn't know the stuff that they were talking about. It was already over my head. And then when the teacher, because their property got busy, stopped showing up for classes, and we stopped having classes, and we just signed a little attendance sheet, and we'd be rooting out, 15 minutes later, killing ourselves, not really knowing it, But I was very intimidated with pastry. I just did not know. It wasn't really until I got in pastry and baking was the last round in my 3-year apprenticeship. I put it off because of that fear, because I just did not know it. When I got to work with the then pastry chef, David Brown, who was in Hawaii now, and just learned so much from him. And that's what got me into baking and pastry.
Great. Awesome. Now, I know you didn't go to culinary school like some the listeners may have, where it's a 2-year associates or 4 years bachelor's. You did the American Culinary Federation apprenticeship, but you also had to go to classes at a school, traditional like culinary school. Could you explain how that works for the listeners and what you had to do, maybe working and taking academic classes at the same time?
Right. Well, the apprenticeship program, you are working a paid job at a affiliate or a partnered hotel or property, usually a hotel, but sometimes country clubs too, and sometimes restaurants, depending on how, as long as the restaurant offered everything that the program needed, the butchering, the storeroom aspect, all that. So, but the majority was hotels. And so you got a full-time job with the hotel's benefits and hotel's rules and regulations that you're subjected to. But you also, with the understanding from a hotel, had to attend school. And the school we went to was El Centro, which was a community college. And so they had the culinary arts program all ready to go. Some of the business math that we took, there was a special section in there for us culinary people for business math related to food, right? So, yeah. it was amazing. That you think about that now. It wasn't that way. I don't really do it now, but and then taking English courses, whatever. But it was, I averaged about 10 to 12 hours a semester of classwork while I'm working a 40-hour or plus.
Wow.
Week. But I love it. You're 19. I was 19 years old, I think, when I started. And it's what you do. When you're that young, you just go and you just do it.
And that was in Texas. So what brought you from Chicago down to Texas to do it there? Was it the property that you did your apprenticeship with?
No, not at all. It was, I was all set, accepted to go to school at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And so after graduation from high school, like 3 days later, I was in Dallas. I had an older sister. The eldest sister was already in Dallas working. She'd already graduated from her college. And I just went down there for summer before I went to Tennessee. But the other sister was going to school in Nashville. I was going to be in Chattanooga. And so went to Texas, go hang out with the sister for a month or so before going to school, and liked it so much. I was like, well, maybe I'm not ready to go to school. And I wasn't really, I had settled on that school, or the University of Alabama, which rejected me. And then that one accepted me because I was looking for something in home ec, something in cooking, but I couldn't find that. And I did not know the words to articulate culinary arts back in that day. Right. And so the closest I could find was a food manager's program.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll work. So I was selling for that at University of Tennessee. And so I just wasn't really enthused at that point in time to go. And I had the room, I had everything booked up, signed up for it and everything. Right. But I just didn't feel it. So I stayed in Texas. And that's what happened.
Now, going back to the school part of it, how many days a week did you have to go to classes? Was it split up, or was it just one massive day that you took all of that?
It all depended on the classes that you were taking. I mean, you chose your schedule. So I usually averaged about maybe 3 days worth of classes. One class this day, maybe 2 classes that day. It all depends on which classes you were taking. It was up to the person, the apprentice, and the classes that they were taking, because there wasn't really a set time. This semester you have to take this, that. You took them as you were ready to take them. And
then your work schedule kind of filled in around that.
Right. They understood. That's part of the program. They understand that you got to go to class. They cannot not have you go to school. It's the apprenticeship program. They go hand in hand, right?
Right.
So, and there were some people who did a split shift kind of thing, depending on what time that class was offered that they had to have, right? And most of us always put off, the harder classes towards the end of our program, right? So like their food costs, purchasing, some people didn't like nutrition. I love my nutrition class, but so the hard classes are usually weighted. So, you work your schedule around that.
Right. Yeah. The math classes and things. Because I had interviewed a couple people on the show from Europe, Australia, and other places, and they go with their apprentice program. They would go to work 5 days, have 1 day off, and then they went to on a Monday for all day for all of their classes. So a little bit different of the model.
Yeah.
So while you were there, what was the best class that you had then in that academic part? You took the hard classes later, so those were your math classes. What was your best class? You said nutrition?
I loved it. Yeah, Dr. Hitt was her name. Some people really don't get the nutrition part, or don't think, back then didn't think it was so necessary in our culinary training. It's just about cooking, cutting, whisking, whatever. But I really did love the nutrition class. I can remember even the final we had to do in the class where you had a family of 4, and the guy did construction work, the mom did this, the kids were this age, and then what were the nutritional needs for the day? And I remember all that stuff. I love that class. It was just so intriguing and interesting to me. Not that I wanted to be a dietitian or work, but I liked the class. It just stuck with me. That's all. So that people would hear in, but and Dr. Hitt, would live up to her name. So. She get you, but But I did love her class. The other class I think would have been, except that patient class over my head. It was like I had no idea, but it wasn't to me something that was very approachable, just because I couldn't really feel like I could approach the teacher. Saying you have an assistant who's American and wants to speak to you in English with a French accent. That's kind of like, wow. Oh my God, what is that? I don't know what this is, and just wasn't. I think the expectation was you had to learn, or you already knew some things coming into the class, and I knew nothing. To me, I knew flan or from caramel, I knew some cookies, I knew some brownies and some stuff, but when you're talking about the other stuff that pastry chefs do, like I was just like, over my head. So that was very intimidating to me. I loved the baking class we had. That chef, he was one of those old school bakers, scooping by hand and everything was just same size, boom, boom. It was gorgeous. It was great. That class I learned a lot.
So it wasn't necessarily the subject matter. It might have been the person, the teacher, the professor that was getting the information across.
I think so. Because I was on Dean's list. I did pretty good in my classes. I always felt like it was my money was a hard thing, terrible thing to waste. I took that attitude. So if I'm going to pay my money, and it was my money at that point in time, paying for my college, even though the hotel I worked with, part of their program was they reimbursed you for education, right? So, but I paid up front, and so like, I'm not wasting my money. I'm going to make sure I get what I need to get out of these classes. So I made sure I was on Dean's list. I was a pretty good student, even on that hard class. And the one teacher I have left that's alive still is the one who taught purchasing and what's the other class? Food costs. And he said he had to look it up. When I saw him about 5 years or so ago, he had to look it up, see what my grades were. He said, you did pretty good in my class. So I know by the skin of my teeth. That's just steady.
Oh, that's great. Looking back now, was it worth it? Would you do it again? Would you make any changes? Would you have gone a different route?
It was great. And I tell people all the time, when I can graduate, get my certification, start working immediately or continue working as I did at the hotel I worked at, and have the expertise, the experience, and at that point in time, some seniority at the job, it's better than coming out of culinary schools, with student loan, and that kind of debt to start off with when you're still making minimum wage or maybe a little better. So in a minute, I recommend an apprenticeship program because you're getting both the hands-on and the book. Everybody doesn't do it the same way at school as you do it on the job. So I always tell people there's more than one way, skin a cat, fill an apple, whatever. But here, if when I was working as a pastry chef and I had people coming in from the different schools for their intern externship programs, and they only knew how to cut a cake in 12 pieces. Well, I didn't usually cut a cake in 12 pieces. I would cut the cake in 18 pieces for a buffet, 14 pieces for a plate up. And those aren't easy cuts if you don't know how to cut them evenly, right? And the same thing for a pie. And so, I always tell them that you got to learn more ways than one. If you just, everything's the same here, it's just not going to work. You have to adapt and adjust to where you are and what's happening. So you might cut the cake in 12 at that restaurant, but over here, an 18 cut, a 16 cut, and it's a 10-inch round, and it's,
yeah,
you just got to be able to adapt and to learn it. So that to me is the key. And I always tell them it's easier to work production and scale down than have to scale up. That's some intimidation. That's some fear right there. You already know you can plate up 500 to 1,000, blah blah blah, what all that entails. There's no problem to plate up 100. I can do it by myself, right? But if you've never done the 500 to 1,000, you got to do it now. That's an issue.
Right. And I would think the apprentice model would give you more of a customized education because it's not following a set curriculum. It's for you and who you're working with, and who your mentor is, and who you're training under.
Right. And there was no set rotation that you had to go to Garmager, you had to go to this coffee shop or this butcher shop. It was all of a flow. If I needed you here, or you did your 3 months or 4 months here in this department, then it's time for you to switch over. So it was really very wide open, which is great, actually. It wasn't so structured that, so you're able to learn and grasp. And sometimes it would be rare that your book study would catch up with your actual work experience, but you were still getting it in.
Mm-hmm. So talking about that worst class, tell me about the hollandaise sauce. What happened with hollandaise?
Oh my God. It might have been basic food prep or prep 2, And once I learned what a hollandaise sauce was, and my lab partner, a good friend of mine, made the mistake and let me make it one time. And I'm not whisking this thing. I just couldn't whisk it long enough, or didn't whisk it long enough, and that was it. I just didn't take the time to whisk it long enough. So therefore, I didn't get the air that I needed to hold that butter that I needed, to pour it in there, and I would break it every time. But between him and our instructor, I learned how to fix it every time. Start over and I had incorporated, so I learned a lot in that class. But I swear, I think the first 3 times I made holiday sauce, I broke it.
Perseverance, though, paid off, right?
Oh yeah. So by the time I got to the pastry shop and I had to make a Sauvignon, I was on it. I knew how to do it.
Yeah, it's just a small thing sometimes, and just kind of keep working. I think even Thomas Keller wrote that in one of his books. So there was a story about him and hollandaise breaking it. It was the perfect sauce, and we used to really want to dominate that and stuff. But it's just the little things. Okay, so now you have the degree, or you have your apprenticeship, your papers are signed off. What did that take you? What did you do next, and how did your career kind of unfold? What paths did you follow?
I ticked off my executive chef and I stayed in the pastry shop. He was looking for somebody to be a first lead cook or something, and go towards the restaurant business part, or maybe in the banquets. I ain't like that. I loved working in the bake shop, pastry shop. After all that, this happened because of the person I was working with. I was able to flourish and pick up the things that I did not get out of the class. And I saw the opportunity to advance working with him and staying where I was. I also loved saucier, but I also knew, at least in my head, that I never had seen or heard of a saucier chef advancing to become an executive chef. That it was more dead end. You had to be at banquets or in a restaurant to get up to that next level. And so I was liking pastry and baking. He was willing to teach and train. And at the time, he was the unofficial corporate trainer. So if you wanted to be a pastry chef at that hotel or any hotel for that corporation, you came through him.
Oh, yeah.
I'm already there. Well, okay, let's do this. And that's what happened.
Oh, good. So then you stayed with that company, but in the bake shop capacity, executive pastry chef, and then stayed there until you moved on to, where'd you go next?
Well, I stayed there, learned everything I needed to learn, was the theory, and by that time, his 2 assistants had been promoted and transferred out. One went to executive pastry chef in Orlando, and one went to executive pastry chef at one of the property hotels in Hawaii. And so I moved up. And so after a while, I was doing the ordering. I was doing the production list for the day. I was making more of the fine stuff. I was coming in early, learn, the showpiece works and stuff like that he was doing, staying late to help with production and plate ups, and just learning everything I could learn at that point in time, about a year. And then finally, 2 positions opened up for a pastry chef. One was in Hilton Head and one was in Greenwich. And I had heard both of them kind of sort of, and I'm thinking Hilton Head was in Hawaii because I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, I didn't really look these up, so I'm trying to find a book because no Google back in that day. I'm trying to find something, where are these places at? And then I'm looking at cost of living. So, oh my God, it costs how much living? Oh my God, and my salary was going to be what? Oh, in Hilton Head. Well, this kind of expensive too. But I'll take that because it's warm. It's in the South, and I'm not trying to go with that snow thing. So I stayed with the Hilton Head, and transferred to that property, transfer promotion. So
good. Now, I know you have quite a few certifications, and you're obviously American Culinary Federation, ACF, very high up in that. I wonder if you could speak to that and to listeners and how important it is to get involved and networking and get those certifications outside of your education proper, so to say.
It really is true that certification matters. I feel that I would not have advanced in my career without them. I mean, when I'm done, I also proctor exams, the certification exams. And so when I tell the people who've done it, who are considering doing it, it's a key factor that separates you from other people that don't have it. If there's an example I like to give sometimes is, if there's just kicks and giggles, easy math, if there's 5 culinary schools in the state, each class has 50 people. So that's how many people with culinary degrees in the state, how many of them are certified, but you have it. So what are your chances that somebody's going to look at you versus all the rest, right? And so it's just a game changer, a differentiator between you and the average person. Not to say that your skills are there or not as on par or less or more, but it tells that employer who's looking, or the hiring person that's looking, that you have taken the sanitation, the supervisory part, and you've done some skills levels at this level that you're certified at, so that it's a profession to you, taking it personally, and it's not just a job. This is what you are going to do with your career. It's a career changer because you're treating it as a career versus I just need a job.
Yeah, that's so true. It shows that not only do you have the academic part of it, but you have to have that experience part. You had to have that, on job, in the job and working in the industry. So it kind of gives you that at both sides.
I agree. There was one young lady I remember when I was doing the certifications on Royal Caribbean, and there were no women taking their tests. It was all the guys taking it. So I was sitting in the chef's office, or maybe going over the papers or something, and she walked by and she saw me and she stopped. And I looked up and waved, and she came into the office. I was like, how you doing? My name is, and we just had it couldn't have been 3 minutes of a conversation. It was just so big that she had never seen a female person of color chef with the badges and the patches and stuff on her jacket. And I was like, well, why aren't you taking these tests? Because she didn't feel like it was for her. Wow. Like, well, why do you not feel like it's for her? And because, all the European guys are telling her and teaching this and that, and she didn't take it serious. But it is serious, I'm telling her, because when your contract is up, if you don't have the certification, you won't get renewed. Mm-hmm. I said, and when you get this, that they are offering to pay for it, you know how much this stuff costs? When they are paying for it and giving you this leg up, whenever you don't feel like you want to work for this company again, when you go back to your country, you are a step above with this paperwork. So there are plenty of people who look like me or just female, who are out there who have this, so just because you only see this is what you see on this boat, but there's this world out there where there are women and minorities out there who have stuff that you have not seen. Do not ever limit yourself because you feel like they are talking to you. And make them talk to you, make them understand that you need this and that. It was like, it's not even 5 minutes conversation, it's just boom, boom, boom. And she just went away. But I always notice when I do that, where are the women? Are there women taking these certifications? Are there women stepping up and leading? Are there women who's taking advantage of these possibilities?
Yeah, did she end up going for it or no, maybe later on?
No, it was too late by that time because it's something that she hadn't even taken all the classes that she needed to take. So, by that time it's already predetermined before we get on that ship, how many people are taking the practical and how many people are going to take the written. They've already had
You planted the seed, though.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you can speak to that a little bit more, because I know you wrote a book, you're an author, and you had the Here I Am, Chef Kimberly's answer to the question, where are the female and minority chefs? Let's talk about why is there, the female presence isn't there in those leadership roles, the executive chef roles, minorities?
I have a few theories on that, and some of them are, we still are the caretakers. You hear it now, even during this pandemic stuff, that more women are out of the workforce because the decision was made who's taking care of the homeschooling and the kids. Right? So when there's kids involved, it will almost automatically default to the woman, right? And so that's one. So if you don't have the support system, take care of junior and baby kids and all that stuff, when you work, what are you supposed to do? And because being in a management position, you're not working an 8-hour day. It's just not it. Right. And so how do you do it if you don't have your mom, your dad, your husband, somebody there to support you while you're doing those hours at work? That's one. Another thing is it's a fear factor, or, well, they didn't offer it to me. Well, I'm not going to go for it because, there's another study I remember reading, and it was Lean In or something, that if there's a criteria of 10 objectives listed for a job and the woman meets 9 of them, 8 of them, the guy meets 7 or 6, the guy will go for it. The woman won't. Oh, I didn't meet all 10.
Wow.
That's study. I was like, oh my God. So sometimes we are our worst enemies. Mm-hmm. We don't push ourselves and just grab the opportunity when it's presented. And sometimes, it's just support or lack thereof of it. So it's the combination.
But you climb, and you have had children. You had a son. So
I had my son in my 30s. If I had a kid and I was in my 20s and I was working those crazy hours, it'd be a big difference. Because I was married.
You did the career first.
Yeah, I did. But I wasn't in a relationship that was leading towards that either. I had relationships, whatever, but I wasn't, engaged, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I married at 30, had my son at 35. So
you had those 20s to do the career and work on, climbing those ranks. Yeah.
And everybody's not like that. There's more people now with kids in their 20s than ever, and it's just a harder. It's not that it's impossible. It's just going to be a longer process.
Now, I know reading your bio and stuff that you made waves by being the first and only African American female elected to the board of the American Culinary Federation, and they've been around for 90 years. Why do you think it it took so long, and was there just not qualified candidates out there, or was there just barriers, whether they're visible or invisible, that were in the way? Why weren't others, taking that role that you did?
I believe that there are barriers, and I think just for lack of knowledge, that I wasn't even aware when I decided, what was it, the convention was in Phoenix, and I know years before I had asked about, can we have like a women's forum? Can we put time on the agenda? Or can we get it just a meeting space or do whatever so that the women can get together and just network talk? It doesn't have to be anything official or with education hours or points. We just wanted the space to get together and talk. At the time, I was also the one of the 3 North American Continental Directors for WAX, Women in WAX. And so we were really trying to network with other women. Mm-hmm. And so, why not at a convention or a conference? It's perfect with hair, and so, but I would never get afforded the opportunity to get that happening. And so when Phoenix happened, the president had put together a what's it called? Task force. And I just happened to come upon the task force because it was on the ACF website. And I'm like, oh, what's that? And I emailed, like, what's going on with this? When's all that? And, oh, we got our first meeting tomorrow. And, a conference call, you can join us. And no, y'all, I'm good. I handle that. I'll be down. I've been asking for this for 3 years. And now it's in the task force. Okay. And so they had in Phoenix on the agenda meeting space with continuing education hours and all that. And I wasn't even going to go. I'm just done. I don't even want to go. No, Kim, you got to go. So I had my girlfriends on. You got to go. Okay, I'm curious. Let's go. And so whatever day it was during the convention, they had a meeting room, about 40-ish people in there, sitting at tables. And what they did was each person who was there representing the task force went to each table, and they had a specific question that we were supposed to converse about, whatever. And they were taking notes, whatever. And they were going to combine all the notes and then present it to the board, the new board, whatever, because it was election year, to the board in their fall meeting. And that just got me hyped. I was like, and I don't even know why, but it just got me hyped. Okay, wait a minute. You guys are going to sit here. You're going to put us through all this stuff. You're going to take notes. You're going to write stuff down. And one of them was like this 30-page, questionnaire. Like, oh my God.
Wow.
I said, you can compile this all together and then give it to the board so they can discuss. But meanwhile, yesterday at the Board of Governors meeting, 6 white guys got up and nominated 6 more white guys. There's not one woman nominated. They came here with the plan to do something now. And we still talking about going to the board and letting them discuss it, and they're doing something later. I said, so why are we not being about it? Why would you not come here and nominate and do something? We're at the convention. This is not the time just to be, we're going to talk about this.
Talking about it.
Exactly. So just be about it. And so I was just hot. When I got to think about that afterwards, and some of the other ladies were too, right? This doesn't make any sense. Why can't we? We were just. I said, somebody needs to run. I'm looking around. Who needs to run? Who can I tap to run for this? This is somebody. And I'm looking everywhere. And then because my girlfriend, I drove to Phoenix, right? I'm in Charleston. I drove to Phoenix. I had all the time in the world, right? I drove to Atlanta, picked up my brother. We drove down to Dallas. I dropped him off, picked up my girlfriend, and we drove to Phoenix and reversed it all the way back.
Wow.
So I had plenty of time, right, in the car, coming out of Phoenix, and I was still hot. I can't believe who's going to run. Somebody needs to run. And I'm trying to think of the names and who's got, I hadn't even still went to the qualifications part. I'm just trying to think of people who've been in ACF long enough that they would be known, right, to run for something. I know my girlfriend had already ran a couple of years earlier for secretary, and she lost. But so she wasn't going to run for anything anymore. So I'm trying to think of who else. And I'm like, well, why not you? It should be.
Ah.
Me? That's how it started. I never looked at me. Right? And I'm sure that happens to a lot of other ladies. I'm looking for everybody else. Like, why not me?
Right.
And that's what happened. That truly is what happened. When I'm active enough, been to enough conventions and conferences, I like to network, and it's so important to network. You just can't just work, and not meet people and expand yourself and expand your horizons and your business associates, whatever. It's important, but sometimes we're looking for everybody else to do something, and we're standing right here.
Right.
And that's truly is what happened.
It's like that checklist you mentioned. You only had maybe 7 out of the 10, and you're ready to disqualify yourself. You're like, that's good enough.
And I didn't even know what the qualifications were. And I think that has a lot to do with it also. So I made sure, to post this year what the qualifications are to be a vice president, right? Do you meet this? And even now, as running for any of the office, what other qualifications, do you have? Have you been a chapter president? Because I've looked around for some other women I could talk to. Hey, why don't you consider running? But they don't have all the criteria. Like, it's either the certification or usually have you been chapter president. One of those two is usually what's missing, The desire and willingness is mostly there, but one of the it just disqualifies a lot of people not to have both. I mean, I've met guys, other chefs, who, the one chef I know, he knew year 10, first day, when he was able to apply for the academy.
Wow.
He knew it. He was counting it down, And I know chefs like that. They are waiting. I know this day, and this year I'll be working on this. And I know people who got that stuff down. I've not ever heard a woman talk to me that way. Never.
Because once you know those qualifications, you can make a plan. You can start making, chunking it up. I'm going to do this, and you can start nominating people like, okay, in 5 years, your turn. And
yeah. So that's why I really want to get into the mentoring aspect, and knowledge is power, truly. So if you know that if you do this, and that, I can get to this level. If I do this, and that, then I can go here, And so I really, really, really want to make sure that the mentoring, I want people, chapter presidents, I want the board of directors, I want everybody to have a mentor, somebody who's young in this business and in this profession to do this, to get a seat next to you, to learn the ins and out, whatever, instead of recycling the same people, same thing.
Right.
We ain't getting no younger.
No, and that's the future.
We got to train them up. We got to be able to pass it on, something. I don't want this to die because I'm not at the board anymore.
Right.
And I believe representation matters. And so with that being said, who can we all look at and talk to? I mean, even when I was a teacher, the majority of my class has been female. But we don't ascend and we don't ascribe, and it doesn't look the same way when it comes to management and leadership positions. It's not there. So why is that?
Mm-hmm. So how would someone get a mentor? How does this mentee program do you see happening? Because I've had other guests on this podcast, and they've talked about how important it is. And it's like the missing link seems to be getting the two together, the mentor and the mentee, and how to make that work.
Well, there's one thing I know, ACF, that we started in December, November. There's a list that you can sign up for, put yourself on as a mentor. Right. And so whatever you want to mentor about, qualification that you have right now, well, whatever. And then next part of it is to open it up for mentees so that they have a Rolodex, basically. See, I'm dating myself. They have a Rolodex of chefs to choose from that they want to connect. So the willingness is there, because if you weren't interested in mentoring somebody, you would never sign yourself up.
Right.
So that person is signed up. This person is looking, match.
That's perfect.
That's it. But I want to expand it. I think it needs to be expanded and mandated. When people are in leadership positions, I think there's a certain more level or commitment to that leadership position that you pass it on. The people who are coming in behind me as vice president of Southeast region or whatever region is going to be, there should be some kind of a book, something, a chit chat, more than a 10-minute, 15-minute conversation I had with the other VPs before I got into it. What this is all about and what I've done, what you could do, it's up to you. But what I've done, what has happened, and this is where we are. Expect this, expect that, and for you to carry on the torch and continue doing whatever it is you want to do with your own style, your own thing. So I think that the mentoring part works, it can work for all levels in our ACF group. I think it's so important when you have all these students coming out of culinary schools, and especially now, when people are graduating and have never been into a professional field because now we're on quarantine, right? Or not working the same as we worked before. So how do we get their hands on that personal touch and experience? We're not even meeting together and working together. It's very important.
Yeah, I've had a few guests that talked about that too, because when you get out of culinary school, you don't have to do the traditional route, go work in a restaurant. Some of them are going on to be dietitian, nutritionists. They're working for, suppliers and purchasing and hotels and authors and teachers. There's so many openings. And I think that mentorship would help, because if they could find someone that may be in one of those roles that they aspire to, and you can easily make that connection, I think that would help their journey, their career path.
Yeah. That, and like I said, when you see somebody who looks like you, especially when you're a minority, be it female or person of color, who's at another level that you aspire to be to, then that just makes it so much easier. Because if you've never seen, I just might ask, who was my mentor? That word was foreign to me. I didn't grow up into this thinking about a mentor. That word was just something that wasn't used back when I was in school. But if I had to say I had a mentor, unknowingly it would have been the pastry chef I worked with. He mentored, taught me whatever. But to say I had one, I couldn't have named another female person of color who was in a position that I knew of that just wasn't in my realm.
Right. Well, maybe you could mention influences. Who influenced you, personal, professional, growing up, that, to be the person you are or to be in this career?
Oh, my God. I'm going to date myself again. Stop. Julia Child and the Galloping Gourmet. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Wow.
I would come home from school and watch them after school before I turned on cartoons. I had to get my cooking show on. I loved watching Julia Child. And Graham Kerr. I didn't even know his name was Graham Kerr. He came and did a demo, whatever, at ACL. Like, oh, that's his name. It's this Galloping Gourmet. I didn't even know. Galloping Gourmet. Because he was so vivacious on TV. He's cooking something. That's what influenced me. That, like I said, my mom was always a good cook. Very rare that she, even if she did open up a box or something, it's add this, add that, do this, do that. Something was always, she cooked from scratch, from the cat head biscuits to really doing good food. And Dad was no slouch either, so I grew up with that. Parents who cooked. And even though we went out to eat once a week or something like that, it was still good food. I remember the days when we would go to our neighborhood fish market and you could point to the tank, I want that one and that one. They take it out, kill it, fillet it, boom, boom, and you go home with some fresh fish. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yep. No.
So.
But going back to the role model, the influences, even Julia Child and, Graham Kerr, Galloping Gourmet, they were not, person of color.
No.
So they don't have that role model. So how is that changing today? Who do they have to look towards today? Someone like yourself. I mean, how can people be out there and be that role model for those that are looking for someone like themselves?
Well, I mean, it's a lot easier to find because social media is wide open at this point in time. There's so many people who post things, who have blogs, who have, pages, whatever, websites. And you can find now a lot more people of color or women doing things, be it in your backyard or, across the waters on some other continent, whatever. You can find it. You can find it a lot easier now. I was always told that if you write the article, send it to the paper, you're more likely to get it printed, published, than if you call a reporter and tell them about something and have them come do it. Reporters are lazy. This is what I was told, right? So if I was to write something, and send it, 9 times out of 10, I would get it printed, published, whatever. So I always made sure when I'm like on my social media or like especially on LinkedIn or something, that I would look for the person who was into the news media outlets. I would always friend that person or send a request, and because that's just a boon to me, I don't necessarily just look for chefs. I mean, that's kind of dead end for me. I love to meet other chefs and all that, but I want somebody who's in another profession who could address certain issues or talk to me about something if I have another question, be it the social media aspect or anything else as far as that goes. They might know somebody who I could, network with about, they're putting on this event over here, or American Cancer Society has this going on. Did you know they do food? They do food. They need somebody to, oh, okay. They need a demo. Oh, okay. Let's go do that. So to network outside of food, for me, has been key. It always has been. I mean, actually, I think it's that network that's gotten me just about every trip I took out the country was because of that. Meeting somebody who was not necessarily a chef, but who was a writer or author or did photography, something like that, and was looking for, and they found me.
But get outside those normal channels and network outside of that, and that could really help you. Awesome. So tell us about your business now. What are you doing now? You've become an entrepreneur. You have your own business. You have your corporate chef. Tell us a little bit about what that entails. I guess pre-pandemic. Hopefully after the pandemic, how has that changed as well?
I have almost, severely because of the pandemic craziness, shut that down. But consulting to the newbies and people who don't know about their business. Like, is this a business or a hobby? Because your pricing isn't right, you're losing money. And, just consulting part of it to me has been huge. I have used it to network with other people. So I've taught a Head Start class for it was through Head Start program. Sorry, it was for teenage parents, and sadly enough, it was like 17 parents in the class.
Wow.
I think it was one dropped out because they had the second baby and couldn't do it. Like, oh my God. I was like, I can't even imagine in high school, having one, let alone two. But teaching them how to cook and cook from scratch and not to go out to eat junk food, blah, 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 but how to cook nutritious meals, whatever. So that was part of my business. Of course, doing specialty cakes, wedding cakes, whatever, that's always a part of it. And doing catering, personal chefing, that's always been a part of it. So there's some people I've catered for special occasions when they have some sort of business meetings, whatever. I've done that too. I think I've been entrepreneurial since, I guess, more so. Well, before that, because even when I was married, before I had my son, we took classes, writing business plans and other things for entrepreneurial people. Because I've always felt like I could work that hard for myself, and I would even more so, and all the money and all the time would be mine, right? And I can remember even having a conversation with the chef here the last chef I worked for, that instead of that, after that 90-day or yearly annual review, to give me 3% raise, I said, why don't you keep that raise and just give me another day off or two? Because I realized then that my time was more valuable than that new tax bracket you just put me in, the 3%. If you give me another day off or two, you can just keep that. And he's like, you want the money? No, you keep that little money because I can make more money on my time for me than I could at 3% working for you. And I knew that then. And so I think because I was raised with that kind of spirit, my mother always had her regular job. She always did something else. Even if something simple as selling Avon, selling whatever, home-based product business that she had. And she also had real estate that, the house across the street, she rented it out. So she always did something else. So we grew up in that kind of household, in that kind of spirit of things, to have additional income. Never one source. So I believe in that firmly, strongly. So I was always entrepreneurial, looking for other things. Even when I was working full-time as a pastry chef, it's when I adjuncted at Johnson Wells, or adjuncted at community college here. That's long days. Oh my God, what am I doing? But I loved it. I loved the teaching part of it. But it's something I wanted to do. It wasn't something I did repetitively every semester, but when I did it, it was head right. Those are some long days.
Right, sure.
I always have felt like more than one avenue for expressing yourself and for having income coming in. Because life is too short. I've seen people, I know people who be cooking still 75, 80 years old, hobbling around, not in the best health at all. And I just can't see myself cooking like that, or being in the kitchen at that kind of health condition, or being in the kitchen at that age.
Yeah, it's too hard.
One of our chef presidents just died a few months ago, 70-something years old, heart attack in the kitchen, boom, just dropped. Like, I don't want to go like that. I want something more than just, I love cooking, I love baking, but there's got to be something more that I can use my experience and expertise in doing. It's got to be.
Yeah, when you can't be a chef anymore, what are you going to do next?
Yeah,
right?
what's the next step? Somebody said, you could be a food inspector. Like, yeah, that's possible. Or you can go sell for, one of the purveyors. Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I did have, my own business for specialty food products. I did that, and that was great. After that was like, I think my son was like 3 years old. So quality of life was a key issue for me at that point in time. It was a Monday through Friday gig, mostly, 8 to 5, mostly. So I was able to actually enjoy dinners and weekends with the son and the family. I also have a bonus daughter who's about 12 years older than he is. And her lifestyle growing up is totally different from his lifestyle growing up, because mom was home for him, right? But when we got together and got married, and I got her, I was working still. I was still, that hotel pastry chef working those 10, 12-hour days, holidays and weekends. So my days off are Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
So there you go. So, but she grew up, holidays began when mommy came home. Christmas starts when I get into the door. 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Now, either of them in the business, either of them following your path?
My son did for a minute. He was to the point He went to his first ACF convention when he was 6 months old.
Wow.
I took him. It was in Fort Lauderdale, and I said, "I'm not leaving my baby." I took him with me. So I had to stroll, and people I had no. Oh, I'll watch you while you go to class. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they didn't have a nursery at the ACF, right?
No. So they both love to cook. They both love to cook. My son cooks better than my daughter, but and he likes to play in the kitchen. He would sit there and, well, I made this lobster dinner, but I don't think I'm gonna try it again. And I was like, well, you know what, lobster? Oh my God, But every time I catered something, he was right there with me. Every ACS meeting, he was right there with me. But I went here locally, or I go to the one that was in Florence. And I think at that time they were doing the escargot tasting. My son in second grade is doing the escargot tasting.
Wow.
Of course, he picks the expensive one and he likes it. So enjoy it now. We ain't getting this at the house. I was like, people tell me, your kids are so spoiled. I said, how do you mean they're spoiled? But they grew up with a mom for a chef and blah, blah, blah. I said, but I'm just cooking at home. I'm just cooking regular food. Yeah, it might not have been Chef Boyardee or whatever that I grew up on sometime before we came home for lunch, right? That they're getting. I said, I'm just cooking regular food at the house. I'm not cooking anything 5-star, blah, 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 but not knowing that a lot of parents don't cook at home every day, all the time, or don't cook, go get the chicken or whatever, the KFC, whatever they're doing. I just wasn't me. So I didn't take that. This is what we normally do. And so we sit around and talk about it now. The daughter likes pies over cake, so she'll make a pie and make the dough from scratch, blah, 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 blah. The son, he cooks everything. He's got his favorite, but he likes to cook all the stuff. And for a while, he was working in restaurants to the point where I said, I know for people, I could probably get you, introduction into a school or something if you want to go culinary. And then he decided to get out. So, okay, I shouldn't have said anything. If I hadn't said anything, maybe he would have been all right. But he still likes to cook. And like I said, they're both, very, very petite children. I said, don't let that skinny food. My kids eat. They eat very well. They will sit down and finish a plate in a minute. So, yeah, they take after me that they love to cook, but they're not in the profession.
But they're not in their business. That's okay.
That's great. That's great.
What do you think the future is? Because just mentioned culinary school and talking about that. Now the Art Institute, Cordon Bleu, they're closed. Two of Johnson & Wales are closing. The New England Culinary Institute is closed. They're all, where do you see the future of culinary education, or if someone wants to get into it today?
I have to look at that a little bit more. I mean, I kind of like, what do you mean? Because there was Escoffier is online, right? And so, well, how do you do that if you don't have that person backing you up to talk, taste, the smell, see exactly what you did? You can only go so far, to me, in my head, of a Zoom cooking class, whatever online, because you got to have that hands-on or that personal experience right there. When who's to say that you folded, what's folding, what's mixing, how to use the right knife. I mean, you got to have that experience. And if you don't have that person there to show you, to teach you, to train you, right there in your face, I hesitate to think what it's going to look like, what your experience actually is, what your knowledge actually is going to be. You actually try to go out into the world and do something. I just don't know how that's going to work. It's not the same to me, education-wise and knowledge-wise, from taking all these classes online, especially something that's so hands-on that involves all your senses and only using what you see and then what you're tasting, but nobody else is giving you that critique that you need so badly. I mean, that's like competing. You don't get the critique. Here's your medal. Okay. Or here's your certificate. Okay. But you never get that critique. That critique is so important, and you're not getting it fully, I think, when you just do online stuff. So I'm kind of concerned about that.
Maybe it's a combination of like the apprentice program where they have to do it online and then they have to go do it at a residency type at a restaurant or hotel where then they can get the live feedback and critique.
Yeah, but if then you hold that true, hotels and restaurants still are hurting. Mm-hmm. And so who has the resources to take that in and do that?
Yeah.
Most people at this point in time want somebody more than a warm body, but they want some experience to come in the door. And it's amazing to me. I've had this conversation with the chefs too, that the demand, of course, because everybody wants to live, but the demand, of course, is there for the higher wage, but the experience doesn't match it. And so, what do you do? Where do you lower yourself to? You're going to pay somebody top dollar, wherever your top dollar is in your city. If they come in with, primary entry level experiences and skills, or for somebody who's never been in a professional setting, but has only done online. You know, how does that work? You know, so and they demand top dollar. But I knew somebody. He opened up the restaurant, and nobody came in with the experience that he was needing for the restaurant. So he's training as if it's day one in school. Give them all a notepad and the pen. This is part of your equipment. Put this in your pocket. So you're writing this stuff down. You know, when I tell you this, and that, and this is how, you know, I mean, it was very basic stuff. They did not know. You know, and this is the right knife. This is the right bowl. This is the right plate. You know, this is how we plate. You know, just basic stuff. You know, this is how you work the line. This is, you know, so I don't need you from the pot sink to come on the line when it's open kitchen and just stuff.
Yeah.
And they did not know. You know, so teaching, having that experience, actual experience to me, is what I've always recommended in the apprenticeship program. Because I've seen lots of students who never took the time to work while they were in school. School was so all-encompassing for them, right? Or they just didn't want to put the time in to actually be in the job. Even though I think at the time Johnson Wells was on trimesters, and they didn't have school Fridays, Saturday, Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So to give them an opportunity to work in the profession. But most of them took their time to go out and party and play or go home, whatever, right? Most of them were not working, you know? And so, you know, they missed that opportunity to get that hands-on experience to go with that classroom experience. Because like I said, they don't always be the same.
Right. Yeah. Good points. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll see what happens with the more schools closing. I don't know if there's enough opportunities for apprentices to fill that void, or who's going to train them. And then it comes into restaurants going to reopen, and at what level. And whew.
I mean, they're saying now, you know, before by the end of 2021, end of 2020, that, you know, 100,000 more restaurants will be closed. You know, and like that's how many people without a job. You know, and people's livelihoods. Like, oh my God. You know, so being on other calls and all that, it's not like we aren't essential people. We are essential people, but you just have to find the way to make yourself essential. It's not business as usual anymore. You got to find a way, because people have to eat.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to eat. Just how do you feed them? And once you figure that out, how to safely feed people good food, you kill it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be an entrepreneurial time. There's opportunities there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's next for you? Like, as far as the ACF, you've been twice now as a regional vice president. Where do you see yourself going? What do you aspire in the future for you?
Well, so we're talking about the opportunities and talking about representation matters. And so, truly, when I accepted that nomination for Southeast Regional Vice President, my aspirations wasn't for anything else. It was just to fill what I thought was a void of representation of female and minority people on the board. But not knowing, see, here we go again, not knowing what the qualifications and the rules are that you have to be on the board before you ascend or try to ascend to be the president. And so, like, I remember someone asking me off the rip, so you're going to run for president now? I said, no, what? Can I just enjoy this? No, what are you talking about? Well, you know, to be president, you got to be on the board. Da, da, da. I said, really? Because I had no idea. That was not my agenda, you know, but other people who knew are already thinking about that. So, So I guess there's a few people who think about me being on this board now because, you know, is she going to run for president or not? You know.
Wow.
And so I really, for almost 4 years, I have had that question in one way or the other come up to me because I'm eligible to get nominated to run for national president because I sit on the board. And I'm like, And in my knowledge of my 30 plus years of being an ACF member, the only person I saw who came close to being a national female president, she was the Western Regional Vice President. And at the time, the vice presidents all rotated the offices. So they eventually ascended to the national president position.
Wow.
Right? So you got voted in on the national for the VP position, and then you rotated around. And so by the time it was her rotation, the bylaws changed.
Wow.
And, we all need to vote on the national president. So, you know, so it was the year she was supposed to ascend to it. It never happened. So there's only been 2 females on the national board as regional vice presidents. The Southeast had one, and the West had one. Then I came along. So yeah, I got nominated, and I'm going to run for national president. So by the time this airs, I will be running for national president as the first African-American female, or first female African-American running for that national president position in our 92nd.
Good for you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
And I've been told, well, maybe you shouldn't run, things aren't easy. Well, nothing's ever easy. If you were running for it to be easy, what's the point? Anybody can do it then, right? And so I'm going in with 4 years of experience being on national board, and I see things, I say things, and sometimes I just sit back and just observe. So things have to change. We need some progress. And like I said, I really do truly believe the mentorship and representation matters. And there's so many cooks out there. And the issues of, like I said, being essential and how do we display our skills and our craft and still keep ourselves safe and still make a living.
Mm-hmm.
Those are key vital roles. When our government has not spent the money on food and beverage hospitality as it has done and we are, 10% or 0.4 of the GDP, whatever,
Yeah.
We are a huge, huge industry and we got overlooked. But I don't think that we position ourselves to petition and speak for ourselves enough to say, hey, knocking on those doors, making those phone calls. Restaurateurs, hospitality people are here, and we are such a large industry that affects everybody nationwide. From the distributors to laundry services. I mean, everything is affected.
Sure, farmers, producers.
Why weren't we looked at and taken care of better? I'm not the political one to talk about all that, but I know something should have been done, could have been done a lot better.
Yeah.
And we could have been better represented, when our membership is literally hurting, losing jobs and businesses. Gotta be a better way.
Yeah, so true. We need that cohesiveness. We need the spokesperson. We need that networking and, to be able to go out and advocate for our industry.
Agreed. Definitely.
So you've been an ACF member for a long time. You're still an ACF member, and you plan to continue being an ACF member. How could someone else get involved that maybe doesn't know anything about the ACF or wants to go and maybe check out a meeting? How can they find out that information?
Really, truly, the best way is to go on to the ACF website, acfchefs.org, and all the members, the meetings, the chapters that we have is listed there. So you can click on like the state and find the chapter closest to you. Most chapters are still doing virtual meetings. A few have been, personable, but most are still doing, Zoom meetings. But the dates are posted. The time is posted. If not, then the chapter information is posted, like the president, secretary, treasurer, that stuff is posted on the website. So you can always find a chapter, closest one to you. Or if you're interested in moving or just going around the states, the nation, whatever, and find one there and get on the meetings don't cost anything, especially for the Zoom stuff. So you can always find what's happening. I don't know what's happening in Oregon today, but what is their next meeting? Or I grew up in Chicago. What's the Chicago chapter doing? Or what's my chapter of origin, Dallas, doing? If I want to check and see what's going on with them, it's a great way to reach out and network and meet other people who are like-minded and doing things that you might want to be doing or are doing and seeing something different. So I always advise people to go to the website, find that. And so it's just a great way to meet like-minded people who are more than likely there to help. You ask them a question, they will respond to it because they want to help. They have that same spirit.
And then they could become a member themselves as well.
They can become a membership. That's all online too on the same website. They can join ACF. The banner is right there, and the number to call for membership is right there too. Joe, Joy, and staff is right there ready to help and take information off the line. And we have new payment plans where it's not just necessarily a yearly payment. You can make it easier, pay monthly. It's like $10, $15, $20 a month is easier than $200 something a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's added to your monthlies. You put it on a credit or debit card, and it's just don't worry about it anymore. So I mean, we've come up with all ways to make it easier for the member to get their membership, and from free to really discounted to making those payments easier. It's all there. So I definitely online.
And they could find out about getting certified too, and finding out about that, and climbing all the way up.
All that, what ACF is all about, when our next meetings are. We've been doing a lot of virtual classes, some for continuing education hours, some just to have classes and conversations about cooking, best practices for Christmas shopping. We had diversity matters discussion, a couple of them. We've had country club chefs getting together. We've had a whole bunch of different webinars to address different situations and things that have happened. So it's a great way, like I said, to stay informed, to stay on cutting edge stuff, and just to see other people, and you're not alone. Other people who may be in the same boat doing the same thing you're doing, who's doing it, wherever they are. So it's a great way to definitely reach out.
And if someone wanted to get in touch with you or follow you or your path or get in touch for classes or cakes, is there any way that they could find out where you are? Or is there a site or something?
Well, I'm also listed on the ACF website, but I also have a website too, KimberlyBrockBrown.com. Keep it simple. I am on Facebook, Kimberly Brock Brown on Facebook. But all my social media at this point in time, I think I have it linked up. So between LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and ACF website, find me, Kimberly Brock Brown. I'm there.
Perfect. And I'll put those links in the show notes to this and part of the bio. And so if anyone's driving right now and can't write it down, you can always go back and look at
go
that.
Back, don't write it down there.
Write it down later when you're not driving. Awesome. So as we come to the end of our chat today, and before we wrap up, is there any last minute advice or guidance that you want to leave with the listeners, something you want to share, maybe tell someone that's going into this industry or looking into culinary school or anything like that?
We were all, when I was going through it, told that, the aspiration was to become fine dining white tablecloth chef. You were kind of laughed at, looked down if you were a hospital chef, or laughed at, put down if you weren't even the country club chef or a highfalutin white tablecloth kind of thing. But, things are so changed, and you can make your mark in this industry. There are so many different avenues, from being, a social media star, dealing with food. I mean, every talk show basically has a food segment now. Photography, if you're into that kind of thing. The personal chef thing is not going away. And these meals delivered at home, it's just nothing but getting bigger and bigger. So if you can find a niche in that, delivering whatever your specialty is, be it the healthier stuff or just good home cooking stuff, that's not going away. If anything, that is booming. So just finding a way to be relevant and to get good food safely to other people is going to be key. And it might not be the brick and mortar. It might be the food truck. I think food trucks are a perfectly good way at this point to be safe and have good food and get it to the masses quickly and safely. I do believe, being innovative and not necessarily being tied down to the brick and mortar might be the best way to go. Truly it is. We are all looking for that next best big thing. And sure, the food fusion, the nouvelle cuisine, all the stuff that we've gone through over the years for food, Scafe this and this, that. Know the basics, learn the basics, and then you can put your own twist and spin on anything. But Caesar salad is Caesar salad. Don't call Caesar salad something that you put Thousand Island dressing on and blah blah. It is basics are the basics, and that's key. Know your basics, know the traditional stuff before you go twist and add and putting my touch and my whatever on it. But you got to learn that. Know your skills, and always be open minded, and always I think look for the person, look for people to bring you up. They always say if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Well, truly, if you're the one who's doing all the cooking and all the studying and learning, you're in the wrong room. You want somebody to be able to pull you up, who can train you, talk to you, who you can go to advice, some good advice, and follow through with that. I mean, it's a lot easier these days, even though most of us are still, behind 6 feet, behind that glass, whatever. It's still easy to reach out to people via social media and to ask that question. There are so many online groups who are for foodies, for chefs, that you can talk to, ask questions about, and get some support. Because we all need that pat back. Like, man, this is a hard day today. I lost the contract, or what's the right food cost? We get that all the time. Well, they didn't want to spend $300 for 30 people for a 4-course meal. Like, okay, no, no, it's not gonna work. So there's just so many ways to talk and reach out to people to help you in your profession and guide you along your career. So not having that classroom experience, it's okay at this point in time. Yeah, it's great to be there next to each other, but there's so many different other ways you can reach out, between social media and phone, old school phone call, to do that and make that happen. So.
Perfect. Great advice. Okay, well, that is just about all the time we have for this episode, and I want to first thank you, Kimberly, for coming on the show today and sharing your culinary school story with all of us. We really appreciate your time, your insight, and your honesty.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking and having me on, and I hope I can be a blessing to somebody. You know, we're all in this together, and, you know, I don't know everything, but what I do know, I'm happy to share.
Well, thanks again, and enjoyed our chat. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
And a big thanks and appreciation also goes out to all of you, the listeners. We hope you enjoy the show and this episode. You all are a big part of this show, so please let us know what you think. Your comments are always welcome, and they help us in making the best show possible. You can email them to culinaryschoolstories@gmail.com. That's culinaryschoolstories@gmail.com. Or even leave us a voicemail at area code 207-835-1275. That's area code 207-835-1275. And if you like the show, we have a big ask of all of you, and that is to share the podcast with everyone you know and to give us a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Okay, until our next Culinary School Story, take care and be well. Bye-bye. Culinary School Stories is a proud member of the Food Media Network.